Hey everybody, this is Craig from 9V Games, and today I want to do a quick video of something that I've seen on a lot of channels that I actually enjoy, and they like to talk about the history of the ESRB rating system. And not my trash bag. It's not trash, it's empty boxes and shit. Look, all my games. You guys have never seen this view. My games, and then there's my bar, and there's a couple TVs and some liquor bottles there. Yeah, anyways, so I've seen all these videos about the ESRB, and I've always wanted to do one, but the problem is when people do the videos of the ESRB, they're my age, and they don't ever talk about what it was like during the transition period, and I'll explain what I mean. That's what this video is about. People my age grew up in an era where there was no rating system. Then they had a proprietary rating system, like per system. You know what I mean? I'll explain. Hold on. And then they had the ESRB, which is, you know, not universal, but it's the United States. You know, and I don't need to talk about the history of it. We all know that Joe Lieberman was a dick. Hillary Clinton was on board with it, and it was basically came down to Night Trap and Mortal Kombat. Whereas Mortal Kombat was arguably the more popular game, and Night Trap actually became way more popular as a result of the ESRB, you know, setup and the government trying to crack down on video game violence because it makes kids violent and blah blah blah, which was, you know, it's not true. But so basically, you know, it went all the way to the Supreme Court, and Joe Lieberman was like, games like Night Trap are disgusting and they're sick and twisted, and it's basically just you know, a murder simulator about trapping young women. And I didn't really care about that game back in the day. And my friend Fabian, who you know, if I didn't have a system, he had a system, and vice versa, and we all used to just go back and forth to each other's houses because that's what we had to do to play games back in the day. You young kids don't understand about that. But what happened is you always had one friend who had the really violent game. This was after the ESRB came out. The really violent game that you couldn't have at your house, or, you know, somebody had something that you couldn't have at your house, and you would always go to their house and play it. Now, this is the era I lived in. Obviously, Nintendo had their own thing. Nintendo, you know, they didn't have a rating system, but they did the quality assurance on their games. Basically, they didn't want any adult-themed games. There's a lot of unlicensed ones out there, but they're not like sanctioned by Nintendo. They don't have the quality seal. And then Sega Genesis actually did their own, you know, because you look at stuff like this, like Kid Chameleon, you see nothing on there. They had no rating. And then a game like Ren and Stimpy or Shinobi, which came out before the ESRB, they had the GA, which was the general audience, which I think is funny that Ren and Stimpy, and then what was considered violent back in the day was Shinobi 3, they both have the same appropriate for all audiences. You know, and then we get to these, which is what I cared about. So like I said, it came down to Mortal Kombat and Night Trap. And my friend Fabian had a Sega CD, but we didn't care about Night Trap. It looked corny as shit. I still think it's corny as shit, but basically it was all these bad boys. Mortal Kombat, and you can see they have the mature rating, mature. Now what happened was, my parents would let me play games. My foster parents didn't care; they would let me play games. I would always go to the arcade and I would play Mortal Kombat. Anywhere that had a Mortal Kombat machine, I had a lot of arcades around me growing up. I had one probably 2 miles down the road. I used to ride my bike there, so we used to play Mortal Kombat. And then none of us had it at our house because when we used to play it in arcade, it wasn't on home console yet. So the game came out on home console, and it didn't have an ESRB rating yet when it first came out. So we used to go to Blockbuster or Video Headquarters or, you know, wherever. We had a bunch of different ones in my town. I'm trying to think of the Music Forum. We had a place called Music Forum where you could rent VHS cassette tapes, Betamax, and I don't know why air quotations, those are real things, and video games. So basically, I used to go and I used to rent a game, and there was no problem to it. And then the Supreme Court trial came around, and this shit was like nationally televised. It was all over the news about Mortal Kombat being so violent that it's going to go to the Supreme Court. It's causing kids to, you know, start fights in school and be violent and blah, blah, blah. And then, you know, Doom, all this shit came out, and this was stuff I was playing. And my mom decided to put the hammer down on it. No Mortal Kombat. I rented Mortal Kombat for like 3 weeks straight, and then when I was renting it is when the news started blowing up about it, and my mom returned it and was like, "You're never, ever getting a Mortal Kombat again." So I used to borrow my friends' Mortal Kombat, or I'd go to their house and play it. And then that blew over when Mortal Kombat 2 came out. I asked for it for Christmas, and I ended up getting it for my Sega Genesis. This bad boy right here. And I played the shit out of it, but it was a weird time, and that was the point of my video. Is I like that people do the history of it, but there's so many histories of it, not personal experiences. I'm not going to say I suffered. Obviously, it has to do with video games, not suffering, but I had to suffer through it. There's air quotations are appropriate. So I mean, it was a crazy time back in the day, and then you see things today where people are like, they're still doing it. Watchdog groups are like, are video games making kids violent? They're making them more aggressive, and blah blah blah. And I'm like, dude, I've lived through this already. This is not even a thing. You can try it, it's not going to happen. The ESRB has been in place since I was a child. I was there when it started, and the government hasn't taken it over yet. They want to. Hillary Clinton wanted to. That was one of her things, by the way, when she wanted to become president. That was one of the things that was on a low. Everybody was too busy talking about her emails to understand what her actual itinerary was. If she was going to be a president, she wanted to censor violent media. She's part of that bandwagon with that. What was that Leland Yee guy? Leland Yee. Arnold Schwarzenegger was talking about it when he was governor, which is hilarious because he's popular based on violence after weightlifting. But yeah, it was just a weird time, like, where I had the freedom to go to arcades and play games, and then all of a sudden when this shit happened and it was on the news, my mom or my dad would be at the arcade, like, shadowing us, which was usually at the bowling alley that was a few miles away. Or if we went to the mall and I was like, can I go to the arcade? And my mom would be like, you have to wait until I'm done shopping. My mom doesn't watch these videos, so I can do impression. You have to wait. You have to wait till we go in there. I have to see what you're playing. So I just have to walk by and, like, gently touch the Mortal Kombat machines because I wouldn't be able to play it. Hilarious part, though, is I would be able to play Street Fighter, which I have a Street Fighter over here, which was MA13, and I wasn't 13 at the time. But yeah, it was a crazy fucking time, man. I don't know. I have so many memories of before and after. But obviously, when I was a kid, I felt the impact of it, but I didn't think anything big of it. And now it's something huge that, like, I don't know. I complain. When I was a kid, I complained that I was like, my mom doesn't understand. Mortal Kombat's not that bad. I don't fight kids. I don't do this and blah, blah, blah. And then now, because I have this channel and I'm an informed gamer, I'm an informed consumer when it comes to video games. I can look at a game and say, to my 6-year-old son, be like, that's not appropriate for you. You know what I mean? He wanted to play Left 4 Dead because he got some book that had Left 4 Dead in it. The Guinness Book of Records Gamers Edition. And I was like, absolutely not. Not a fucking chance. Because I don't want to be up all night with you having nightmares. But I let him play Dead Rising 4 because, that's over the top crazy. Like, it's not so scary when you're dressed up in a dress and you're attacking zombies with a Blanca mask or a dinosaur mask that spits acid. It's not realistic. So while the games have the same ratings, it's good to be an informed consumer in the fact that, yes, it's because it's got blood everywhere, but is it really violent? Is it realistic violence? Is it something that's going to be on, is it something that's going to be, traumatizing to a child, or is it something that has a little bit of blood in it, so they have to slap on an ESRB rating? Is it someone who's going to say fuck in passing or whatever? And that's really what Dead Rising is. So, when I was a kid, I didn't like when this system got put into place because it blocked me from getting a lot of things at the time. But then, after that all blew over and everybody was on to the next thing, president getting blown in the office, then nobody fucking cared anymore. So I thought that was funny. That wasn't immediately after. There was tons of stuff. O.J. Simpson, Michael Jackson touching boys. you know, you understand how our media works. It's been like that forever, at least in America. You know, they jump on the next thing and then they don't care about the last one. So that's what it was like when the ESRB came. It was a giant fucking storm, and it affected kids my age at the time. And then it just blew over. But now I actually enjoy the ESRB systems, not so much for me. Like I said, I can look at something and differentiate, but I think it's something that parents really should pay attention to, because ESRB has been under a threat for a very long time from our government that is like, you regulate your shit or we're going to regulate it for you. And you don't want the government to be regulating our stuff. It's the same with the MPAA ratings for movies. You know, they got to keep a tight lid on it, but it's also part of the parents' responsibilities. And I don't like it because these lawmakers who want to go in and actually take control over the game rating system, which they still try and do all the time. You guys probably just don't see it, but if you look it up, it happens like once every couple of years. And, you know, you get new senators in and all that shit, and they're just like, we're going to do something about this. And, you know, but they keep a good tight lid on it. But the lawmakers are the people whose kids they don't pay attention to, and they have them being babysat by Call of Duty. And those are those annoying squeaky fucks that you hear. And the reason that I won't play a game like Call of Duty online, those are the people that are going to ruin it for us. So, like, I used to do my part. I don't do it anymore. But my favorite one is, as much as I hated my mom when she did this when I was a kid, I tried to do it as an adult. So my mom, and essentially is the antithesis to what I used to complain about, or what I complain about now, is parents not paying attention to what their kids do. And that's the reason that we have these rating systems in the first place, is because parents can't be bothered to pay attention to what the fuck their kids do. Like, there's probably a kid watching this right now, and I'm going to say, cunt. And then I'll get an angry email from a parent. You know what I mean? You need, like, pay attention. And then, you know, this stuff won't happen where the government won't come through and try and regulate all of our shit. But because it's bad. When this stuff happens, it's bad. And you guys don't get it. The good thing is that our media hasn't changed in the last 20 years. So, the last 30 years. So, I mean, if it ever came down to it where, like, the government's going to regulate, you know, a rating system for the games, you guys would be like, this sucks and blah, blah, blah. And then, you know, 10 minutes later, Donald Trump said something stupid, and then everybody forgets about it. So, yeah. That's it. Just wanted to give a little cool inside, hopefully, perspective about what the ESRB was like growing up. It was a lot of sneaking around and getting games that you weren't supposed to have, and people getting games from me that I wasn't supposed to have. It was essentially like a kid black market of games back in the day. And I know there's tons of other people, and I wish that they would tell their stories like that on the YouTube channel. Mortal Kombat was the biggest one for me. And my friends, is because that was the game that you went over somebody's house and played. And there was always somebody's house who wasn't allowed to have it. And then, you know, my mom was the lady who would spread the news. So, you know, you can't have Mortal Kombat here. And then all of a sudden there's no Mortal Kombat at my friend Fabian's house. But then we go to his cousin George's house, you know, to go watch a football game. And on halftime we're playing Mortal Kombat 2. And that shit was, I don't know, that was fun to me when I was a kid. And you guys don't have to deal with that anymore. So you dodged a bullet. But you kind of didn't, because it was part of the fun of growing up, at least in my generation. That shit just made me feel old. Thank you guys for watching.